Have you ever noticed how one single, tiny thought can completely change the course of your entire day? Well, that's what we're going to dive into. How that one little thought can change how you speak, how you act, and even how you connect with the people around you. And believe it or not, it all starts with a super simple moment. Just imagine this for a second. You miss your bus. And then, of course, just as you're standing there, it starts to pour rain. You finally flag down a taxi, slide in, and the driver turns to you and says this. It's such a simple throwaway question, right? But it actually leads to a much, much bigger one. And this is the whole point. So often, we let one frustrating moment completely stain our entire day. But what if we made a different choice? What if we decided to recognize that a bad 5 minutes doesn't automatically equal a bad day? Asking yourself this one question is really the key to unlocking a much more resilient mindset. So let's start right there. This first part is all about reframing. How changing our perspective on just one tiny moment can shift absolutely everything that comes after it. We all do it. A slow morning suddenly means the entire day is ruined. One little mistake at work means, oh, I'm just terrible at my job. We have this weird tendency to blow up a small negative thing into this huge, sweeping judgment about everything. But here's the thing. We actually have the power to stop that in its tracks. We can choose to see the moment for exactly what it is, just a moment. Okay, so now let's talk about how this builds. Because this internal shift, it doesn't just stay inside our own heads. No way. It creates this massive ripple effect in how we interact with, well, everyone around us. And this slide lays it out so clearly. You've got these two paths our mindset can take us down. On one side, you've got negativity. Someone shares good news, and the response is just doubt. It completely shuts people down. But on the other side, a positive mindset, it opens the door. It listens, it creates a safe space, and it makes a real connection possible. And you know what? There's actually a scientific reason for this. It's called the broaden and build theory. And the core idea is pretty simple. Positive emotions literally make our brains more open. When we're feeling good, we're not just happier. We're more curious. We're more aware. We become better listeners. Our entire social world actually expands. And this whole idea of belief, it gets even more powerful. There's something called the Pygmalion effect, which basically shows that our expectations of other people can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you genuinely believe someone can succeed, you subtly change how you act towards them, and that belief can actually boost their performance. It's not magic, it's all about mindset. And this quote just illustrates the point perfectly. A teacher said this to a student who kept saying, "Ugh, I'm just bad at English." This one single sentence changed everything for her. It reframed her whole identity from someone who was failing to someone who was just learning. And by the end of the course, she was the one leading the group discussions. That's the power of seeing potential. Okay, so it's one thing to see the best in other people, but what about when we're the ones who mess up? Let's turn the focus inward and talk about that harsh voice in our own heads. You know the one, the inner critic. So let's set the scene. You're on a first date, it's going great, you're feeling good, and then, bam. You spill coffee all over your white shirt. For most of us, that immediate internal reaction is just pure panic and this flood of self-criticism. So on the left, you've got the inner critic's greatest hits, that automatic, harsh, and totally unhelpful downward spiral. But on the right, you see a choice. A mindful response isn't about pretending it didn't happen. It's about pausing, taking a breath, and choosing a more realistic and kind reaction. It's the difference between drowning in shame and just navigating a simple accident. This mindful response is really rooted in what we call self-compassion. And let's be really clear here. This is not about being soft or making excuses for ourselves. True self-compassion is actually brave. It's this strength to look at your own imperfections and respond with kindness instead of judgment. Honestly, it's much harder and way more powerful than just beating yourself up. So, how do we actually do it? Well, it's a pretty simple 3-step practice. First, you just have to catch that harsh inner voice in the act. Second, ask yourself that question. Would I ever say this to a friend I care about? The answer is almost always a big no. And finally, you consciously choose to replace that thought with something kinder, something more supportive. It's a small action with a huge, huge impact. And get this, this isn't just some feel-good idea. The research totally backs it up. Pioneering studies from researchers like Kristen Neff, going back to 2003, found that people who are kinder to themselves are not lazier, they're actually more motivated. They're less weighed down by anxiety and depression, and that frees them up to keep trying and to keep moving forward.
You know, that ability to be kind to yourself when things go wrong is the very key that unlocks this next section. Because once you stop beating yourself up, you're finally free to tackle the one thing that holds so many of us back, the fear of making mistakes. So let's talk about reframing, what it even means to get something wrong.
So here's the crucial point. Most of us see failure as a stop sign, right? Like a final verdict on our abilities. But a resilient mindset sees it more like a compass. It's just information. It's data telling you what to try next. Every mistake is a lesson, not a life sentence.
And that is the secret sauce. Long-term success is rarely about raw natural talent. It's about emotional endurance. It's about the ability to get knocked down, learn from the feedback of that failure, and just get back in the game. Resilience beats talent over the long run every single time.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. So now let's pull all of these pieces together into a practical toolkit you can actually use to start building your own resilient mindset starting today. And here's the hard truth. The most difficult part of any journey isn't the beginning. It's that long middle part, when you're putting in the work day after day and it feels like you can't see any results. The key isn't some flashy motivation. It's a quiet, steady commitment to just keep showing up. So here it is, your toolkit. See the best in people and in yourself. Pause instead of panicking. Be kind to yourself. Treat failure as a teacher. And above all, just keep showing up. These 5 strategies really are the foundation of a strong and flexible mind. Remember, this isn't about some massive, overnight transformation. It's all about the small choices we make in our thinking, moment by moment. Choosing a mindful response instead of an inner critic attack. Choosing to see feedback instead of failure. These tiny little shifts, they compound over time into real, lasting change.
So, I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. The next time you make a mistake or face a setback, before all those old habits kick in, just try this. Take one single breath. Just pause. What insight, what little piece of wisdom might show up in that moment of stillness that you would have otherwise missed?
Because the truth is, this is all a process. And if you're even just thinking about these things, you are already well on your way. So stay kind, stay open, and keep choosing the thoughts that move you forward. You're doing great.